Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tucker. I'm here with Brian Roof and Cecilia Jenkins. We're here from Cook's Country Magazine, and maybe you've seen some of the episodes of the Test Cook. Hopefully you've seen all 6 of them at this point. But we wanted to come back together and sort of answer some of your questions from from the audience members, and to kind of give you a little bit more insight about what it's like to be a test cook at America's Test Kitchen. So thank you so much for joining us. As you know, the Test Cook was all about the development of the Cuban sandwich, which is a sandwich. Is that something hard to make? Shouldn't be. And yet, it is. So,
if you want a good one.
If you want a good one. So Cecilia and Brian are going to finish off the recipe. They brought it up to like the sort of final steps here to get it finished before, while we talk today. And I'm going to ask them a few questions, but we're not going to be too like formal about it, although I do have my glasses and my pen in case I want to take notes. But they're going to go ahead and finish off those sandwiches so we can eat them and you can feel, envious of us being able to eat sandwiches. First of all, what are you doing? Why are you putting these pots on these sandwiches?
Oh, we're weighing these down. Cecilia, why are we using this instead of a sandwich press, as somebody might ask online?
Yes. So we got a couple questions about that, but we can't call for specific equipment. We want to be sure that if somebody picks up this recipe, they don't feel like, oh, I can't make that. I don't own that piece of equipment. So we wanted this to work with just regular kitchen equipment. Odds are people have a skillet and a heavy pot.
Yeah, that's true. It's something that we think about a lot in our development. We have pretty good data on what our customers have in their kitchens and what they don't have in their kitchens. And so whenever we can find a workaround for a piece of specialty equipment, we don't want somebody to have to spend a bunch of money along with do all the work to make this sandwich. So if we can find a way, and actually this maybe works better than a lot of sandwich presses out there because you get more even heat and more even coverage and more press. Because one essential part of a Cuban sandwich is to press it. Yeah. You don't just make a sandwich.
Right.
That's not the end.
You definitely press it in Tampa. It's not always pressed in Miami. And there are many differences between those two cities.
Well, let's talk about that.
All right.
One thing though, if you do have a panini press, go for it.
Sure.
If you want it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
But we're doing Tampa style. What does that mean? We had a lot of contentious conversations about this during development because one of our team members is from Miami and had strong feelings about it. Brian visited Tampa, learned that story, so he's got strong feelings about that too. Where's ours?
So this is a Tampa style in the sense that it's got the roast pork, the ham, and Genoa salami on there.
So
now,
3 porks.
3 porks.
Well, 4 if you
4
count
porks.
the lard.
That was a trick question. Good for you.
Ding, ding.
So it's a 4 pork sandwich. In Miami they don't use the Genoa salami. I think the Genoa salami is a throwback from when it came up from Cuba when they use salchichon, I think, kind of Spanish sausage.
Mm-hmm. So basics of a Cuban sandwich, maybe you know this already. Cuban bread made with lard. That's your 4th pork, your secret pork. It's got the mojo, roast pork, ham, salami, Swiss cheese, pickles, mustard, a little bit of mojo sauce on ours.
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
And we're also going to have to talk about the mayonnaise.
All right, yeah.
Let's talk about the mayonnaise. That's the elephant in the room.
All right.
Did you keep that in the recipe? Don't hate us for it?
I don't think I left the don't hate us for it.
We had it in the head note that we enjoyed the sandwich with mayonnaise.
I love mayonnaise. So
don't hate us for it.
Like if you ask people in Tampa who are really big in the Cuban sandwiches, they'll say that mayonnaise doesn't belong on a true Cuban sandwich. But that doesn't mean you can't find mayonnaise throughout Tampa on sandwiches. I happen to like mayonnaise, so I put it on. It's an optional ingredient. And then the mojo is something that I saw one of the competitors in the Cuban Sandwich Festival doing, and I thought that was a good idea. So we incorporated it into our recipe too. It also is an optional ingredient.
And when you go back and look at those episodes, you'll see it was really creative kitchen work from you to figure out. Traditionally, often, you will marinate the pork in an acidic marinade with all those mojo ingredients because mojo requires a lot of citrus juice in it. So that acid tended to dry out the meat. but we wanted the flavors that it imparted. So to find that workaround, you created a dry rub
Yes.
with salt and some seasoning, but then also created a mojo sauce to put directly onto the sandwich
Yeah.
so that we would have
Yeah.
all that flavor without sacrificing the pork.
Exactly, yeah. So we brought the mojo in a different way where it would actually help us and not hurt us. So we do have this separate sauce.
So when you're going through that, when you are marinating, I don't know how many pork butts you ended up having to marinate, and go through that experience of learning whether or not this marinade was going to be the way forward. I remember a couple of days, and I think this shows up in the series too, where you can't roast off a pork in 20 minutes. So every one of those tests takes hours and hours and hours, if not days. So what does that feel like after you've roasted, say, a dozen pork shoulders, pork butts, and it's just not doing what you want to do? What does that moment feel like?
There was one day in particular where I think I had 5, and they all were disappointing. Honestly, it feels like you might have failed at that point. But you have to be sure to keep your goal in mind, and that you have a support. We have a supportive team. Help me troubleshoot on how to get to the goal of soft, velvety, luxurious pork, which I was not getting. But
that's
yeah, it's not fun.
something so easy to relate to, where you just you keep throwing this idea against the wall and it won't stick, and you know it's supposed to stick.
Yeah.
But you can't figure out how to make it stick.
Yeah. Well, we didn't want to diverge from tradition,
Yeah.
and mojo marinade is traditional, but it just wasn't working for us. It wasn't giving us the goal that we wanted.
Right, and I don't think there's any real failures that take place in the kitchen like that. I mean, we learned a tremendous amount about these mojo marinades and how resilient pork is or isn't to acidic marinades.
Yeah.
And we only ended up where we did because the strong mojo marinades didn't really work for us.
Talk to me about the bread.
The bread
The fourth
makes
pork.
Yeah, the bread makes the sandwich.
I agree.
think hands down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people commented that was the thing for them about this sandwich. And most people will sub the bread because unless you're in Florida, you can't get it.
Not enough people make bread.
No, and
I did not figure this out in my life until I turned 50 years old. And then I was like, oh, you can make bread. And it's really satisfying to do. And it's complicated, but it's not hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems intimidating, but once you find where the yeast is in the grocery store, and it's in the baking aisle, when you just, set your mind to it, it's actually very rewarding.
And this bread's got lard.
Yeah.
Which, talk to me about that. Why?
So, I just want to make sure that this is...
I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like the recipe worked.
Whoa, sorry, Brian.
Yeah.
We catch you on
Is
fire?
yours good?
Yeah.
You want it to be brown like that. Give it a little,
Yeah.
can you hear that? A little tip, tap, tap. So that you know you're going to get a little bit of crunch. But the bread stays soft inside.
Yes.
We're going to eat some
Yeah, just to prove how good it
to
is.
really reveal
You want
that.
to take them off or just put the tray down there?
Were you tempted to skip the lard?
I don't think we've ever felt like that on Cook's Country. Have we?
It was definitely
Because it is something that a lot of people don't necessarily have a lot of
Right.
experience using.
it was definitely a point of contention because I don't think La Segunda uses it anymore. Is that right?
Right, they use shortening.
Do they?
Yeah. But at one time they did use lard.
They're talking about a bakery in Tampa called La Segunda Bakery, which is probably the biggest Cuban bread factory anywhere.
About 20,000 loaves a day.
Yeah, so Brian and our photographer Steve went to Tampa for a few days last spring to really get a feel for what it's like there. You can see some of that, the photographs in the series and also in the magazine when it comes out and on our website. But that is quite the operation.
Yeah, it was a massive operation.
Yeah.
You can't even wrap your head around it until you go in and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the great thing, the unusual thing about the bakery is that it's in Florida.
Yeah.
That's not unusual, but there's no air conditioning.
Crazy.
There's no air conditioning
Yeah.
in the building, and they're afraid to air condition it because they're worried that it's going to affect the character of the dough.
That's dedication. So one thing you learned is that they have to be triangular. Why is that?
In case somebody comes at you, you could just jab them in the eye with the pointy part.
All right, well, come closer, kid.
You bite from the point. Don't do that thing like you're not an
Here?
animal. Yeah, bite the point.
I am an animal.
You got
All right,
really
don't
mad
bite
at me
the
when
side.
Oh, for God's
People don't bite the side. You
All
bite
right,
the
here we
point.
go.
It's like a sandwich designed
I'm
for
gonna
eating.
get this close to my mic.
You got really mad at me when I didn't go point first.
Guys, I'm just trying to,
Cecilia, did you make this sandwich?
I did.
That's a good sandwich.
It's
you.
the best sandwich.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
I don't know if you can see this, but it's almost like a geology lesson. Like when you go to like the Grand Canyon and you can see like the Pleistocene and the Jurassic and like all those periods. You can see that there's very specific architecture to this sandwich.
I have to say, I haven't made these in 4 months.
Yep.
I love when you develop a recipe and you finish it, and you make it again a long time later, and it's still really good.
That is the best feeling, and this happens to us all the time because it can take a year. We had several people ask us. In fact, we had a question here from Claire Steppett. She said, one statistic I would like to see mentioned is how long the process took. And it's a year at least from the moment when we decide to do it to the travel, to the research, to finding the right time of year. If this isn't necessarily a seasonal recipe, but like sometimes we have to think about that. And then it took what, 6-8 weeks, maybe more to develop this recipe? Something like that?
I think it was 2.5 months.
2.5 months to develop a recipe for a sandwich. And then there's this big lag time before we make it again to photograph it for the magazine. And then eventually we'll make it again maybe for the television show. So these recipes have a really long tail. It's like a comet with a super long tail. But when you come in, you developed a recipe 6-8 months ago, you kind of forget about it because you've developed, I don't know, a dozen recipes since this.
Right.
And then you get back to it. That's gotta be a gratifying feeling.
It is. And I actually even built one of these sandwiches upside down because I hadn't done it in a really long time. So so I messed up a little bit, but it's okay. It's still gonna taste really good.
That freaked me out when you were trying to trap the steam. And you use an inverted aluminum roasting pan over the sheet pan so that you can trap the steam in the oven and create the crust that you want. But I think it was episode 4 or 3. I can't remember, but that.
Yeah, it was one of the later ones
Yeah, well, that one almost didn't make it into the oven.
where I almost dropped it.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Yeah, and the time when you broke the Pyrex,
yeah.
I didn't make it in. You should talk to the editor.
Simon can vouch for me that there were a lot of things that I broke or burnt.
The one I
or
want to know what was going through your
forgot.
head when you did this thing at the very end, and you were like,
know.
"Oh,
I know
my
it seems
God."
so dramatic, but I just want to say I was being completely honest and genuine throughout this whole thing. And when you're done with something and you're not even really done with it because it's just done here. It's done in this building.
Yeah.
And that is a very small part
Yeah.
of the entire process.
Yeah.
So I cleared that hurdle and I don't think I sat down you don't sit down here.
Right.
You're running around all day.
It keeps us
So,
young.
I don't even think I didn't know you were rolling, Simon, so I was just like, I need a second.
That was the best part of the series, I think.
All right. Javari Williams asked us, I need someone to address Babish because Babish showed up at least once in
Twice,
this.
I think.
Twice?
Yeah.
In this series. What was Babish doing here?
He did not come here specifically for me.
Yeah.
He came here because he was working with Dan Souza
Yeah.
on the pancake.
But we knew when we saw him, we knew that he had done the chef show with John Favreau. And
Yeah.
Done his own
Ochoa.
Cuban.
Yeah.
Yep. And we just offered him, see if he wanted to taste
Human
the sandwich.
Easter egg, you know?
Yeah.
Like you find an Easter egg. All right.
It's super nice.
Holly M asked a question that a lot of other people asked too, which is, what do you do with leftover food around here? And I can say that it does not go to waste.
No, it does not.
Yeah.
We are not, unfortunately, licensed to give it away to anyone outside the building, outside of the company, but it all makes it home. We have a take-home fridge just around the corner, and we pack everything up, and it's a really nice perk.
Danielle Corral says, I was waiting till after the credits on the final episode for it to say Cecilia will return in Avengers Endgame. You working out?
Yeah, always.
Yeah. That's a big deal. Cecilia might be appearing in Avengers.
I now understand the magnitude of that comment.
Right. Well, even if you're not appearing in Avengers, we are going to do this again. We've been re-upped for a second season. Yep. At some point in 2020, we still have a few questions to answer about what recipe we'll follow. But Cecilia will be back. Yeah, if you guys have ideas for recipes that you think that you'd like us to take a look at, especially recipes that are not too easy. Sorry, Cecilia. But we don't want to give you,
three-part
spaghetti with, we want to give her something like that's really helpful for people. Because, one thing that you mentioned earlier is that you always have a home cook in the back of your head when you're developing this stuff. And you did mention that the recipe is not finished in the kitchen. It has to go out into the world. Like if our recipe works here, but doesn't work there, that's a failure. Like we've failed. So we have to make sure that it works in a home kitchen too. And that involves sending the recipe out to our sort of survey group. We've got thousands of people who volunteer to test recipes for us, which you can sign up for too if you go to americastestkitchen.com or cookscountry.com or cooksillustrated.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom. You can find a link to be one of our recipe testers, which is great. But we have hundreds or thousands of people testing every recipe that we make to make sure that it works. And they give us scores and feedback. Did we make any adjustments to this particular recipe based on feedback? I can't remember. This was a tough one to ask people to make because it is so involved that you are asking for someone to volunteer many hours of time, but you do get a delicious sandwich.
No, I don't think we made any changes to the actual flavor of the components, but maybe we clarified some of the toasting of the sandwich.
I think we clarified some steps for people, why we were doing certain things. I was actually a little disappointed with the score that it got. Because I'm always aiming for 100%, but it got an 89, and a lot of that actually was due to the fact that people couldn't commit to the project. And it's such a project, they did the bread or they did the pork, but they didn't do all three. And then, therefore, it got a lower score because of that. But
let me say that it is worth doing.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
It's worth doing, especially this bread.
Yeah, and if you watch the whole series, you'll know the pitfalls, and then you can pull off this project piece.
Yeah.
Because I've gone through all of them.
Yeah.
So.
You guys want to talk about anything else?
Just want to talk about how you're keeping me from my sandwich.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was really hard. It was harder to eat and talk than I thought.
Yeah.
I really just want to eat all of this.
I think mine's upside down. I don't know.
No, don't eat that.
Well, who do you want to thank?
I'm really thankful that everyone enjoyed the series, but there were a couple people, Artisan47, Ryan Rhodes, Coaster Ninja, Seven Rays, Ann Hutchinson, Frugal Over 50, Mark Limke, Philip A. Rudolph, Bob Duncan, Brian Klaus, Adjay Abelos, Amanda C., Rachel Nicola, Ben Huber, Anthony L., who is on our website and already made the entire sandwich, and it looks better than the photos that I took.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just nailed it. And Gordon Linder said one of the nicest things.
What did Gordon Linder say?
On Thanksgiving, he said, "This is another thing to be thankful for."
Oh, that's awesome.
So nice.
I want to thank the person who told me, or who mentioned that I had a weird hair growing out of my face somewhere. So I feel that my grooming process has been improved by your feedback. And I don't think I've got a little scruff, but I don't have like a scary hair today. As far as I know, I had everybody check. So if I do have it, it's their fault, not mine.
No one noticed anything.
Subscribe to our channel because we are going to have a new series. I want you to know about it when it comes. Get the notifications also. Subscribe to this channel, to America's Test Kitchen. Come to our website at cookscountry.com. Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, all of the above. Anybody else we need to subscribe to or pay attention to? All right, great. Well, sign up for all of it because we won't spam you with a bunch of like nonsense. We'll only give you good stuff. We've got a few newsletters that you can subscribe to also based on your interests and what you feel like cooking and what you feel like makes sense for your life. Also, check out ATK Kids, which is awesome. Tons of recipes for kids. A couple of cookbooks out on that front too. So thank you for joining us today. Cecilia, you kicked this one.
Yes.
It's amazing. So good. Brian, excellent work.
It's all Cecilia. I didn't do anything.
It was tough though.
It's tough to eat all those sandwiches, but no, it was mostly Cecilia.
Who's the person who told you thankful on Thanksgiving?
Gordon.
Cornell?
Gordon. I agree with you, Gordon. I am very thankful for these two. They make every day better for me. And it's just a delight to work with you guys. Plus I get sandwiches. So it's just a win-win-win for me. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.